So this first fight is actually way better than people realize. It's a tutorial in which it shows you, hey, you have to use your shotgun with these basic enemies called zombies, and your punching will do absolutely nothing. Then we get a forced glory kill that you can also just walk right past to show you one of the most key aspects of the game. Of course, chainsaw goes burr. If you notice, we start off with a base shotgun and then we get a weapon mod and then 3 more zombies to fight. See, this is the thing. Pay close attention as you watch this series and you will find something very interesting. Look how the game drip feeds things in. It's very noticeable in this level. We now have imps, we have zombies, and we have the soldiers. Now all of these are decently ranged enemies. They are fighting amongst themselves a little bit, but you can see we now have verticality in this arena. We have pickups around, and we have zombies for the fodder. This introduces the trigger enemy concept. I've talked about this for years now, and pay very close attention because when some enemies die or get wounded enough, they bring others into the fray, and that is how this game is able to stay so dynamic and feel good. It's not just that, oh, one enemy dies, one enemy comes in. It's a lot stronger than that. So as you see here, we have ups and downs. We're introduced to the jump pads here in this corner of the room. We have pickups on the ground to help us replenish. Now, it's also easing us into the battle. See, we have the jump pads here. This shows us, hey, you need to take what you can get from the enemies for your resources, but we're also going to give you a little bit to work off of as you learn the gameplay and the flow. That's what's really cool about that. Now you can see as we go over, we're having a little bit more fight. If we want to really optimize our chainsaw, we can. We have that option too. But we have 2 new enemies right now, and we have new concepts that are drip fed in little by little, and it's really cool. See, a lot of people don't realize that barge, like I said, is just a tutorial that teaches you the basics. When we come out to this, we have some infighting to show you. We have explosive barrels, just like last time, as a hazard. Now, we're also going to need more hazards very soon, but you can see how we have different pacing. We don't just go from one fight to one fight. We have a little bit of a breather. Now, this battle is actually really important, and let me show you exactly why. We have the Arachnotron, we have the other enemies we've already seen. We're in a pretty cramped area, we're outside, but the key is that Arachnotron. Why him? Why not any other enemy? Well, it's a good introduction enemy. He has a weak point that we can break at the very top, so we learn a new mechanic. Well, we keep what we have already with the soldiers, with the imps, with the zombies. That flow stays, the items around the arena stays, but we're introduced now to the Arachnotron, and we also have another weapon mod. So we're able to bring extra things in little by little and almost die in the process. So when the Arachnotron goes, we also still yet have the trigger enemy system because the other enemies are mostly focusing on us and not themselves. This is done because the game does want the Doomslayer to be the main core of it. And you'll notice that Arachnotron has to go or this fight will not phase forward, as well as some of the other enemies, and once they fall out, the rest goes. The arenas go from the intro to intense to back to calm again as you wave through these enemies and get in this combat dance and flow. We've now had the regular shotgun. We've had so much in this little time without telling us a word. Doom Eternal is very strong about show, not tell. You'll see I punched that zombie after he was staggered because he gained a little bit extra health, and then I just took it right back again to bring him under that stagger threshold. It's only at this point we get a new weapon and we get introduced to the map mechanic. Doom Eternal raises the bar in this arena too. We have the secret for the armor there if we explore it, but we have a big wide open arena. We are not accosted at the very beginning by the enemies. They are fighting themselves, giving us a breather and a little moment to think about and take in our surroundings. The other arenas, if you notice, have been inside, they've been cramped. This is wide open. Look how big this is. The world is our oyster, so to speak, but we come back in and we decide where do we want to fight and how do we want to do that. Do we want to take the high ground up here? Do we want to be more of a distance fighter? Let me show you something really cool about this. If we manage our chainsaw, we can come over here, grab this third one, and go ahead and chainsaw the Arachnotron. This shows us, hey, you can do heavies for 3 or the fodder for 1. So let's say I'm more of a sniper type, right? I see the jump pad here. I know the movement and the mobility. I can come up here, take the high ground, as I should in games and in battles in general. I have a little bit of health to replenish my supplies. I can also dive back into this little catty corner where there are other enemies trying to fight me. There's never a dull moment in this game because they will come after me. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I don't like the full auto. I like to come down here. I'm able to come and fight more close up if that's my play style as well, as I have the barrels and all the hazards in a whole gigantic arena. I'm introduced into a locked door, so I have to figure out there has to be another way to get this, right? So remember I talked about pacing and making sure the player's not just mentally worn out, because Doom Eternal is a game to where you will play an arena, your toes will be clenched and your stomach will be tightened, and then only after the arena is finished will you realize that, hey, I have been holding myself in tightly this entire time. That's the importance of the pacing, the white belt encounters that director Hugo Martin has talked about, with a little jump scare and a little bit of spice to still make them fun. Like, they didn't have to send that zombie through the wall. It looked like a regular wall. They didn't have to put more enemies back here where we once came. But the design of Doom Eternal does so well in that regard, it keeps the old areas fresh when we go back, much like Hexen does from the 90s, spawning extra enemies in when you've already been to areas, knowing that something will always be lurking behind your back. The subway is also special, and people don't think about why. So we come down here, we're introduced to the fireball hazard here, and we're having a few basic enemies, right? Just some soldiers in the background to the left to try to distract us from the enemy of the trap, the hazard. It is an enemy, more or less, in the design. We notice that there's a left-right pattern, and we can take a look and see how we're going to get through this puzzle. We're blocked off from the back. We have to advance forward. This is the entry level, the easy one, the entryway to call back to Doom 2. We can come back in here and hide, take this vantage point, look at the everything around us, the thermostat, if I can find one, set to 6.66 degrees, and we can evade everything as the soldiers come up to attack us. Now, once we make this corner, we're like, yes, this is successful. We have a breathing room, and we have a new task ahead. We now have an Arachnotron to the right, and a couple of the zombies, soldiers, all of that, and 3 of these. So this tells me we are now going from the big wide open areas of the outside here to the tight areas in here, to where we have to manage all the enemies and figure out how to handle them. So we can come up here. How do we take this fight? Well, we are being attacked by 3 fireball things. I'm going to call those out in just a minute of how they're special. Or we can take the fight back here watching for these fireballs, but we're still going to be locked up, and we're in a bad shape either way you cut it. Makes you go for the glory kill and really get those invulnerability frames from the soldiers, from the chainsaw, the Arachnotron. Now, we took the fight back instead of pushing forward. Now, if you notice, these have 2 different hazards. Left, right, left. That's the pattern. How many of you, just think about it, if you were alive for the old Super Nintendo games, the bosses were able to be beaten if you knew their patterns. The idea of the old Nintendo games was to beat these bosses without taking a hit if you knew their patterns, no matter who the boss was. So as we get closer, we see these begin to go off. Now we come back this way and we see a different pattern. There's a launching of 3 instead of the 2. 2 separated, 3 together. We see 2 wide and 1 narrow down the middle. So we have a new pattern to learn. And this works no matter how thin or how thick the obstacle is. So once we navigate here, we have our packets on the ground to help recover. We beat this puzzle, this combat puzzle, as Doom Eternal is. We are rewarded with another mechanic. Pay attention to how this game drip feeds things in and makes it a tutorial to where they show, not tell. They're not telling me, hey, you have to do this. They tell you, oh, I'm not going to do this, then you're going to pay the price. Now we have frag grenade, we have the mod bot. It's not too much at once, but it's a little bit at a time. Introduced to not just the Cacodemon, but the monkey bars. Pay close attention. We now have the scope and a new enemy and a new equipment that just syncs up really well with this new enemy that's a heavy with a weak point. They taught us a new weak point, branching off the weak point system we already knew with the Arachnotron. See where I'm going with this? See how cool this design is and how I'm about to die? We also see, oh, this arena has monkey bars in it. Whoa, we just learned about this in a safe zone just a moment ago. That's what you'll notice about Doom Eternal. We learn about something new in a more safe environment, and then we get to test it out in a dangerous one. So we have multiple levels here, just as before, and then we come over here and find some more enemies. So we take a look. We're going to have a heavy of the Cacodemon. This is a new one. It's drip fed in. So as you know, we have the trigger enemy system. We go after the soldiers and the imps, and they are the ones that will help phase that fight forward. Once we push that far enough, we're going to run to an Arachnotron. So now we meet the Arachnotron, which also has the weak point. We now have the scope to take out the weak point, and we have the grenade. More arsenal, more power, but it's gently fed in, because if you think about it, if you've been playing Doom Eternal for a while, or if you're not not new to the series, you'll be like, okay, this is all basic stuff. It's all stuff I know before. But you have to think about, people are going to be brand new to the series and not familiar with this. They show you the Arachnotron bursts through the wall. This is where you need to go next. The green light shows you this is where you need to go next. They are not explicitly telling you, but they are letting you as the player decide without making exactly the decision. You know, you have to go forward if you want to go this way, but you are making that decision. You feel powerful because you've done that. We get another Arachnotron. We've not fought two before, but we come out to some nice set piece, a relaxing area, if this could be called as such. Now, remember earlier I talked about pacing? When we come over here, we just had a really nasty fight. Now we have a Cacodemon up ahead of us. Oh, this is a little relaxing place, but it's teaching us, hey, there's a gap. I can glory kill him up over that gap, but I need to watch out. Now I have a break here to do a puzzle and learn the traversal systems of the game without too much danger. But we come over here and we find, oh, there is a little more danger now. One plain wall, one dangerous wall, and a way to test our jump. Now the combat behind us, let's take a look at that. What you need to know is Doom Eternal is made up of something called encounters, and there was a program called an encounter manager that showed you what enemies were left to destroy in order to phase that fight forward. We have an incidental one, just a small one, but we meet a new enemy, the Tentacle. Oh no! Jump scare, surprise. This is a relatively safe situation. It's very cramped. It plays to the Tentacle's strengths very strongly because of the cramped areas. And you'll notice that we're introduced a little bit, just a Tentacle by himself, no other enemies around, but it's in a space where the Tentacle has the advantage in the fight. So we come through here, again, calming us down. Wait, there's not a Tentacle there, but it's lit up. It teaches you, hey, you might not always see a Tentacle when there's a spot in the ground, but then again, hey, you might. There's one right around the corner to surprise you. And of course, it's keeping us on our toes. It is a fight, but it's not something that is an insane arena. It's the stop and go, the breath, taking a good little breather on it. Now the next fight up here is a little bit crazier, and it is the pinnacle of everything we've learned up to this point. Pay very close attention to this one and the trigger enemies that come about it. We come forward, we phase the first Cacodemon, slight delay, and we'll hit the second Cacodemon. Now, we have two Cacos up here, facing the skies. They are pressure units, but they're being ranged in this case. We are down below. They are firing down on us to get us dead, while the other enemies, the soldier and the imp, they are pressuring us down here. So while we're busy fighting this imp and these soldiers down here, those guys are going to be raining down upon us. If we're not paying attention, they will completely wreck us, because these two enemy types are working together. Now, we have the Cacodemons, we have the ways that we can fight them essentially with our grenades, all the tools we've learned. This is a test of everything the player has learned up to this point, and the trigger in of the Arachnotron at this point. Now, there are items around to explore and learn from. There's actually a Caco that I did not kill. And if you are a brave player, or maybe you not searching in the middle of the fight, you can find a secret of an extra life, or maybe some health. You still have to fight and earn your keep, get your resources from the enemy, but they're still tossing a few around the arena to help you out. Think about all things we've learned so far. We've got 2 weapons, a bunch of mods, contrast to 16. We did not have nearly this much to start with, and it's all teaching us in a vertical arena. Now, Doom the Dark Ages is going to be much more flat. Eternal was more vertical than 2016 in ways. It sort of goes back against that on the later maps, some might say. This is just a test with some infighting with other enemies to teach us everything we've learned so far and put it to use. But wait, all this we've learned, surely there's something else that Eternal has up its sleeve, and there is. Not just the QA testers getting honored on the wall right here, but we come up here and we see the little mini cutscene tell us, hey, you go through this door next. We are caught up with 2 soldiers to keep us on our toes. Now, we're given the option here, depending on our playstyle and how we want to fight. Do we want to snipe off from a distance, looking up here, always keeping our back ready in case there's a zombie, or do we want to get onto the fray? This is an interesting arena, and let me show you why it is. Once we make that fight, initiate that combat, they will come at us and fight us here. This is a great exercise in strafing. How do we dodge fire? How do we keep moving? Watching the token system, which is showing how many enemies attack at once, essentially, in work. If you're on a harder difficulty, there are more attacking you at once. So a lot of people, when they die in Doom Eternal, they blame the game. This is such a good arena to show this point I'm going to make, and it might open your eyes. I hope it does. So we look at this arena here, and we see, okay, what if I die? There's a tentacle. We're now introduced to them with the rest of the combat. Say a player is fighting all the imps, all the soldiers. They're getting distracted. Oh no, they died. They come over here. Oh, the tentacle hits them. Oh no, I'm stuck. Oh, I died. It's the stupid game's fault. I shouldn't have died. Well, they had no situational awareness to know where they are, what was going on in front of them, behind, and around. They ran into the tentacle with bad positioning. They panicked, and they died. 3 things: situational awareness, movement positioning, and the panic sets in. All in one little arena. Drip feeding, branching off. Now, from this point, we have 2 places we can go. We watch the soldier in the distance, and we say, hey, we want to go this way with opposite firing fireballs from the subway, or maybe we can explore and are rewarded for our exploration and traversal, learning our double jump and practicing it with the extra life. Hey, that's just double jump practice. Take a look at this point. We have soldiers, we have an Arachnotron over on a perch over here from a distance which we did not have before. If we come this way, can we go back? Yes, we have a double jump onto a monkey bar in order to go back. It is this type of thing that really puts Eternal in a great spot. We've learned everything. We get a pretty dangerous encounter right here with the Arachnotron on the other side, fighting him over the barricade while also being on this side. If we want to get really ballsy, we can come over here and get this ammo over in the corner while the fight's going on. So we have two ways to approach this that the game tells us. It gives us, the player, the choice. Maybe it's an illusion of choice, but it is a choice nonetheless to decide which route we want to go to take this fight. Where do we want to take it? Do we want to take the imps that come after it? It's not all just free when that Arachnotron's down, you know. And into the last part, which I think is interesting and needs talked about. Can we also appreciate how environmental storytelling in Eternal is absolutely crazy while the insane combat's going on? It really is a crazy touch. Now there should have been a secret back here, some kind of combat thing or something. I don't know why there's not. But you know what else should be in this level? This arena was made into a combat arena in a modded master level, and I think it's a great conclusion for it. But you know what else is? Come up here with me. I've fought enemies up here in the cutscene area before with the Dags and the Con, and it's a really cool area. Yeah, it's kind of plain. You fall down the hole in the middle, some stairs, enemies can come at you any direction. A really neat kind of thing. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the series, and check out my boss analysis and other here. Thanks for watching.